All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. This is Gaming Shoguns here, and today we're bringing you guys Gears of War eday. Xbox Newswire basically unloaded an article going more in depth and detailing things about Gears of War eday and giving us information on what we can expect moving forward. Today we're going to be going ahead and going through a couple of the key points in the articles, and later on we'll be going more in depth in some of the more major key details that are going to be brought up in the article, and much more. So if that sounds good and you want to stick around for those future videos, definitely make sure to like this one so we know you like it, and subscribe so you don't miss out on the future content as well. But right now, we're going to be bringing you all the latest on Gears of War eday.
Yeah, man. So this one actually was a great surprise at the showcase. So I'm excited that in this news wire that we have even more details than what we got just in the trailer. So yeah, I'm excited to go over it, man.
Yeah, I mean, in a day and age where spoilers are heavy and basically everything in a gaming showcase is always ruined or leaked early, I'm glad to know that Gears 6 was the foreboding, what everyone knew, but we didn't know it was going to be a prequel like eday. So overall, still excited, still surprised, and I'm ready to dive into it.
All right, so we have Gears of War eday was unveiled in a surprise announcement during the Xbox Game Showcase today, alongside an explosive trailer that takes us all the way back to Emergence Day. The trailer introduces us to this defining moment in the Gears of War series that sees the fearsome locusts make themselves known with a brutal ambush from below against the world of Sarah. Here we'll follow younger versions of the series' original heroes, Marcus Phoenix and Dom Santiago, as they begin their fight against the Locust invasion. This event is the catalyst for everything we know and love about Gears of War, and I caught up with the developers at the Coalition to find out why now is the perfect time to tell that story. So, first big talking point. So, speaking to creative director Matt Searcy and brand director Nicole Fawcett, I find that the vibe inside the Coalition is ecstatic. The team is absolutely thrilled to finally be sharing eday with the world. Over the last few years, the studio has remained purposely quiet, but continuously busy, wrapping up Gears 5, shipping its Hivebusters DLC, and Gears Tactics, all the while adapting to the COVID pandemic and its changes to how studios are run. During that time, the shift in rhythm allowed the team some time to reflect, figuring out what they and fans were truly passionate about in order to find the next great Gears story. They quote, we realized that a lot of the words we used to describe the franchise were what our fans also use. Phrases like brotherhood, brutality, pathos, awe, says Circe. Why eday? That's the moment it all comes together. It's the heart of the Gears universe. Everything that happens is shaped by this day. Just right off the bat, what is your kind of like your opinion on the fact that it's a prequel? We're not going past five in terms of moving further in the timeline, but we're going back to the past to eday. Is that something you're initially thrilled about, or what do you think, man?
Yeah, 100%. I think I can speak for not only myself but other Gears of War fans. I'm more on the casual side. I'm not like hardcore Gears fandom, right? But I think I speak for everyone when I say this is exactly what we wanted. I mean, what was the peak of Gears in my mind? Definitely Gears of War 3. The multiplayer was bursting at the seams. We had some awesome innovations like Horde mode and Beast mode. It was just a fantastic time to be a Gears fan, and now they're kind of going back to the roots and recreating it, which was what you and I were actually talking about before the showcase when Gear 6 leaked that we wanted. And I think there was also, I don't want to get too much into any dramas or anything, but there was a lot of pushback on the more current narratives and campaigns coming out, and people just not connecting as much as they did with Marcus Phoenix being the main star, I feel. And now they're really kind of incorporating that back and not only giving us that, but glimpses of characters we've loved and lost along the way throughout the campaign of Gears of War in general. I mean, one of the first things I said during the trailer was, wow, can you imagine a young Coltrane? Like, this is going to be awesome to see. So I can't wait. I'm ready for this prequel, and I'm just ecstatic.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, we talked before the showcase. Hopefully, they're kind of going back to the roots of it, and they took actually literal going back to the roots of the franchise itself, even timeline wise. So that's great, man. It's gonna be good to see that itself. I mean, The Quiet Place is doing that right now, where you have the new movie is like going back to when they first arrived, things like that. So it's always cool to see the day that, basically everything went to hell. And like you said, it gives us back Dom, which is a character that's really missed in the franchise at the moment. Prime Phoenix, things of that sort. So pretty much it's everything we could have wanted. So I'm excited.
100%.
All right, let's continue here. Fans of those mainline Gears of War games can expect to feel at home with how Gears of War eday feels. The Coalition is working to recreate and improve the series' trademark third-person action, charging between cover in life or death situations, all set within an explosive campaign that combines satisfying gameplay and emotive, character-led storytelling. However, all this is told through a modern lens and rooted in groundbreaking technology, giving the Coalition room to really build out those moments or those elements. It's a careful balance, a classic Gears of War game that feels authentic next to the original, but with truly next-gen tech behind it. Quote, "It's going to feel like a new Gears game because that's what it is," Circe says. "It's us revisiting the tone and the feeling of what makes Gears great, but we're tapping into new techniques, new processes, new technology that's going to make the gameplay feel better than ever. It's going to be awesome, a game that feels both truly new and authentically Gears." Gears of War eday is set 14 years before the events of the original Gears of War and tells the story of the first Locust emergence on Sarah. As the game unfolds, we'll get to see how an ill-prepared world responds to a threat like the Locust. The Coalition are being very intentional to recast the Locust not simply as foes, but as living nightmares. These aren't your typical alien or zombie video game antagonists. They're mysterious, formidable creatures that dwell beneath the earth, tapping into our deepest fears. "The design brief was pretty simple," explained Circe. "Locusts are the monsters under the bed. What would happen to the people of Sarah in seeing this overwhelming army of monsters and trying to figure out, what are you going to do?" Studio art director Ariane Hanbeck explains further, "When players experience eday, they see the monsters through the eyes of those encountering them for the first time. The design team prioritized redefining the Locust drone, which had slowly become mere cannon fodder as the series progressed. We transformed the drone into something fearsome, physically intimidating, and utterly brutal," Henbeck notes, highlighting its enhanced status just behind Marcus and Dom in the announced trailer. "Getting the drone right was crucial. Everything else with the Locust, we're scaling up from there." Okay, so what are your thoughts on, it's going back, but it's going to be new tech, and then the focus on making sure the Locusts themselves are a brand new, formidable threat again?
Yeah, no, just right off rip, I think they hit the nail right on the head. I mean, who's scared of drones anymore in the Gears franchise, right? You're scared more of the brute classes that you see later on, the hierarchy that happens, like the captains, the people actually leading the Locust Horde that you find out about later in the series. So essentially, it kind of has that Walking Dead effect, I want to say, where like you just don't even care about that initial threat anymore because now it's just okay, we get them before they get us. It's kind of reasonable, and we should expect this now. So I like that take that they're saying. Redesign for the Locust. I'm gonna have to see more of that personally to be kind of sold on it because I like just the grittiness and just simplicity that was in Gears of War One, mostly because it was older tech, so they kind of had to keep it simple, less textures, all that. But I'm interested to see what more they do to really make drones a problem here and how they deal with it moving forward.
I like, like you said, because pretty much like all those other franchises and this one itself, like they said themselves, it just you lose that initial, threat of the unknown that was, the first time we played these games with with even just the simple drone, that it just became nothing. You're just like, okay, well, what's the new iterations that they're coming up with? The these past ones just don't even, they're not a threat anymore. They don't even matter. I like the new emphasis on that. And in terms of the technology, I know that quickly people were trying to discount this trailer as, oh, it's just a
CG.
CGI from Blur Studio. But actually, because that was actually a tweet surprisingly, that Jeff Keighley put out, like, oh, it's just the CGI from Blur Studio, and people were quick. I don't know if they were developers, but
Hmm.
they corrected them. They're like, no, everything in there might be people from Blur is in-game assets that, like, these are the assets that you're actually working with in the game. So this is what the game itself, these are their in-game models that supposedly are going to be delivered within the game itself.
Wow,
So
that
there
is
was,
amazing. Cause I don't know, man. Like those games where you get in a cutscene and it kind of snaps you back into the camera position you're used to, but you're like, wait, I can move the controller now. Like those are, I think those moments have been lost on modern gaming audiences, but those are really those defining moments when you're like, yeah, the studio did something right with their design, right? Because when you
yeah,
can seamlessly blend a cutscene with gameplay like that, like that's when you're like, okay, we've reached the pinnacle or a magnum opus of what you could really want from a developer. And them kind of fooling everyone with something like this, I think speaks volumes to what I believe is Unreal Engine 5 that they're using now. And
yes,
then their just adaptation of it into the Gears of War game. Which I mean, to that, I just have to say, like, bravo. Like, that's amazing, right? Can't wait to get my hands on this even more.
exactly. Like reading that in on social media that everything we're looking like right there, that picture, like that's the in-game model for Marcus, and that's the in-game drone. I mean, yeah, I would have just been fooled that that's just completely, unrealistic, and it's just CGI that that Blur is just doing specifically for this, those CGI cinematic trailers. But no, that's incredible to hear, and honestly, it seems more likely this is probably going to be a launch title for maybe even the next console. 2026 is the rumored release date for their next their next gen, which is crazy to even think about because I feel we're like barely really entering this gen and its possibility. But who knows? Either one of the last ones for this gen for Xbox or a launch title for the next one.
Yeah, I could see it like summer 2026, fall 2026. They didn't give us a date during the reveal, so I think those are decent time frames. Latest, I think 2027, but I think that's even a stretch. I think 2026 is we're gonna get, and I think it would be very fitting if it's fall 2026. I mean, the fall of humanity as you know it starts on eday, so I just think it'd be kind of poetic in a sense.
So here's the actual wordage, just in case we all want to know exactly what they said. So uh, Jameer Blanco responded to Jeff Keighley's tweet about it, and he said, "Let me put more context to this. The Amazing Gears piece you just saw was full real time, with real time models, textures, environments, etc." All within Unreal Engine 5. Saying it was a CG from Blur Studio diminishes all the technical achievements you probably didn't notice from how
Yeah.
good it was.
Yep.
Though it looks like another pre-rendered CG piece from Blur, it was actually a real-time masterpiece using in-game assets and RT lighting in the same engine the game will play. Already seeing people say, yeah, it was cool, but it was CG, pre-rendered trailer. It just doesn't do it justice.
Yeah, I think he's right, but at the same time, I really can't blame Jeff Keighley for thinking it's CG because I thought it was CG. And
Yeah,
in a day
yeah,
and age where CG is marketing every game imaginable to make it appealing for buyers, I don't think it's wrong for him to have had that like initial thought. But that
yeah.
clarification not being really shouted from the rooftops is kind of insane to me because it's such a technological feat, just like he said, and it's amazing. And I think this kind of harkens back to a quote one of my other favorite content creators says a lot, a lot of people will scream your failures, but they'll whisper your successes, right? And this is
Yeah.
definitely that success right here. Amazing. The only thing I really wish that we could get more from this Unreal Engine 5 is, man, we're gonna need a flashlight because it's pretty dark in these little cutscenes here that we're getting. So I'm hoping we get a little bit more brightness, but other than that, looking phenomenal.
Yeah. All right, let's continue with this article here. Tale of Origins. So the eday reveal trailer wastes no time in reintroducing us to Marcus as he engages in a brutal struggle with the aforementioned Locust drone. However, unlike our previous outings with him, This is the first time that the seasoned horde sawing soldier we all know has faced off against an enemy like this. You can feel the strain and helplessness as he jousts with this inexplicable monstrosity, before finally fending it off not with his retro lancer, but a nearby television set. It's this flavor of raw personal brutality and desperation that the Coalition seeks to capture in Gears of War eday. Marcus and the world around him are not yet equipped for this level of threat. The eagle-eyed fans among you may have also noticed that the Mark I Lancer that Marcus briefly wields in the trailer features a detachable bayonet. It's not the chainsaw-equipped gun we know from the wider series. Fawcett confirms to me that eday is a story of many origins, including the Chainsaw Lancer, but opts to keep the specifics of those stories to herself for now. Suffice it to say, we're not just learning how Marcus and Dom came to be the heroes we know in eday. The Chainsaw Lancer doesn't currently exist in that period, but it's not a Gears game if you're not chainsawing Locust. Fawcett laughs. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, just being completely transparent with you guys. This is one of the things that I was wondering as well from the trailer. And just to kind of clarify for ourselves, we actually dug a little bit deeper on this right before the recording of this video. And what we found was actually very intriguing. We'll be putting up a full video of this later on, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But to say the least, I think we're going to get an interesting introduction to the Mark II Lancer during this campaign, and I think a lot of people are actually going to really like it.
Yeah, because we're saying like, I guess there's a fine line where it's not breaking canon or retelling canon, so it's going to be interesting to see how they go about it because they have a certain clear cut way in the canon already of how it came to be or when the actual Mark II Lancer came to be, but there's probably that little fine line where, well, what's the in between? Like it wasn't technically an issued one, but this is the first time it was actually sort of put together, and that's probably what we're gonna see the initial like inspiration for it.
Yeah, and then seeing that, Marcus is basically the son of the guy who pretty much develops it in continuity, it makes sense that he would be getting one of the first prototypes to help defend himself against the drone and Locust threat.
So the beginnings of Brotherhood. This story, of course, is told from the perspectives of a much younger Marcus and Dom, while the pair are seasoned veterans of the Pendulum Wars, which is the human conflict taking place before the series begins. This is a wholly new threat for the pair to navigate. The best Gears games have these super emotional themes around shared burden, belonging, trust, and loyalty, and Marcus and Dom have a really interesting relationship going into eday, Circe says. To give some background context leading into the story of eday, Marcus and Dom are connected through Dom's older brother Carlos, who died on the battlefield with Marcus. The pair were best friends. Marcus and Dom are in the early stages of forming a kinship over a shared loss and navigating those emotions together. We're telling the origin story of Marcus and Dom and their bond. This is the bond that defines the franchise, Circe adds. They're not the characters we know from Gears 1 to 3. They don't have 10 years of fighting the Locust between them. When the game opens, there's supposed to be peace on Sarah, and they're trying to figure out life without this person they both loved. People are going to see the formation of this brotherhood that is so iconic to Gears. So that's great, man. That's a good context right there. Because for people that might not know, especially from not reading a lot of the novels that they came out with, which are really great. Marcus was actually best friends, like they said, with Dom's older brother Carlos, and some of the novels are even during that time of those human wars and not the locusts, so they're really great. But yeah, it's gonna be great to see, like they said, the beginnings of them two kind of coming together and becoming friends, whereas we're just used to them, being like ride or die for each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think again, hit it nail right on the head, nail meat hammer, because this is exactly what I think of when I think of Gears of War. I don't even think drones, locusts. I don't think like I mean, I think of the multiplayer a lot because it was very fun for me. But at the same time, I'm just like Marcus Phoenix is that focal point for me for Gears. I became a Gears fan because of the cool plot, the overarching story, and of course the fun multiplayer like everybody else, right? But for me, this isn't
Yeah.
like Call of Duty where multiplayer takes the main stage. It does, but after the star of the show really gets played out for me, which is the campaign. Once I've experienced the campaign, run through the story, then my full attention is over here, kind of just like what I do with the Halo series. And to me, there is no Gears, at least the true Gears, without Phoenix at the forefront, and it only gets so much better with Dom here as a supporting cast role member, a character that again everybody loves, everyone thinks very highly of, and is just a well-written, well-rounded character.
Yeah, so it's gonna be like you said. The peak for me as well was the third game, and that's really where all those emotional beats, in their brotherhood and relationship just came to a head. So it's gonna be great to open an old wound in a way, but at the same time, kind of revisit, have that nostalgic feeling, and hopefully this game kind of touches on all those bases and kind of knocks it out of the park. So, the future of Gears. Of course, this isn't the end of other ongoing stories in the Gears series. The team is content with the stories told in Gears 4 and 5 and is by no means abandoning them, but the collective passion for such an iconic origin story was simply too great to ignore. The story of eday and the origins of Marcus and Dom are such powerful, pivotal events that the Coalition couldn't wait to tell it. We're super proud about Gears 4 and 5 and the stories that were told, Fawcett adds. We're not retreating from that storyline in any way, but in this moment, we had an opportunity to write our next step, and this one just felt too good to miss. It's also important to note that eday is not a spin off, it's a completely new entry to the mainline series, set earlier in the timeline. The events of the game not only serve as an exciting origin tale of the two beloved characters, but it also adds detail and context to this period that will resonate through the stories that will follow. In eday, the locusts are not foes that our characters are accustomed to fighting. They are mysterious, formidable, and overwhelming, an unforeseen horror that Marcus and Dom and the rest of Sarah must learn to deal with before it's too late. Everything that happens in eday will shape the future of Gears of War for the better. This is the Gears of War story you've always wanted to hear, and it's going to be incredible. But I like to hear that, they're not abandoning that. They're eventually going to go back to, progress the canon, in the timeline, but maybe there's going to be something of importance, from witnessing these origins that'll maybe make you connect with the other ones more, or something's going to come full circle even then in the future. So I'm excited. It kind of seems like they already know, what this one is and what they might already, want the future to be, but they just wanted to tell this one here first.
Yeah, I think this really comes from a facet of different avenues here. I really think that one, kind of like we touched on before, there was a lot of drama, a lot of people pushing back on either the
Yeah.
characters, the narrative. I don't really remember because I never played the story of Gears 4 and 5. Just haven't. Just was me. I wanted, Phoenix as a protagonist, and at that time I wasn't interested in the series at all too much. But from what I can tell, it's a mixture of that, it's a mixture of what fans want being delivered here. And at the same time, I definitely think, like you do, they know what they want to do for the future of Gears to kind of wrap the series up with the Locust threat. I don't think the end is anywhere near. I'm not saying the next game's going to finish it or anything by any means. This is going to be done, the Gears story is going to be done by like 2032. No, I don't even think of that. I think, we have a hefty amount of Gears to go, years to go for Gears. Sorry, a little tongue twister there. But I do think that we're gonna get something here that is important for Gears 6, 7, whatever amount they do, right? Just like you said, whether it's a relic that they uncover here that they touch back on later in the game, whether it's some emotional ties that Marcus entrusts to Dom, like saying, "Hey, if I ever have a kid, this is what I'm gonna do," and then Dom gives him some wisdom or something, and then that's what he does in the corresponding games when we see it in the future, right? It's gonna be stuff like that, and I really do truly feel they went back here for a reason. It wasn't just because the fans came, which obviously, that's what they wanted as well. They want the fans to come back. But I think there's something that's going to happen here that's
Yeah.
really going to determine the future of where Gears is going, where Gears is, trying to take the story, and this might even be a way for them to like retcon without retconning entirely, right? If you revisit
Yeah.
here and say something minute happened, didn't think it was a big deal, and now it's like the game-changing event that could end the Locust threat forever, like, yeah, you're gonna want to cover that in the beginning of your story and have it some sort of mention somewhere, right? So I
Exactly.
think that this is definitely going to be a place for a plot device to really come in here for sure.
Yeah, you're 100%. I agree with you. I feel like you said, not only did it present the avenue of kind of for the moment with this next one, maybe being able to silence those complaints about where the story was currently at by going back to what people loved about it, but at the same time, like you said, I'm pretty sure they're sneaking something in here, a plot device, something that maybe the characters themselves within the story we see them maybe overlook, like you said, or maybe not think it's a big deal, that'll come into play later on in the story, and it'll kind of seem full circle then. And as long as it's done well and organically, a retcon is not necessarily always a bad thing. So I agree that I feel there's another motive to bringing this out than just oh, it's just a like they said, it's not a spinoff, it's a mainline entry, unlike Judgment that we had mentioned, or we talked about before this. um so yeah, there's going to be something of importance here that has to affect the future, and I'm excited for both, not just to for the nostalgia that this is going to bring, but for the future of Gears in general.
Can't wait to see some multiplayer info about this, game modes, gameplay of the campaign. I'm going to be there for all of it. I'm sure you will be too. Again, we're going to be continuing future coverage of this game, its lore, deep dives into certain topics as news comes out for it, along with other major gaming news as well. So if you like this, definitely make sure to like the video and subscribe to keep up with all the content as I mentioned earlier. This has been me, Some Hot Cookies, and Jerry from Gaming Shoguns, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this amazing video and information brought forth by Gears of War eday. Jerry, any closing thoughts?
No, just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and obviously we'll continue coverage of this game when we can, and as well as diving into previous games and their lore. So keep a lookout for anything Gears of War from us in the future.
All right, guys, but that is going to be it from us. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. We'll see you guys on the next video. Have a great one. Peace.